Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube. I am coming to you today with a WIPGO how-to video. This is a video that my hope is going to be a resource that we can use for years to come. I hope to be able to reference this video each and every year rather than having to refilm it each and every year. So this video is basically going to be a rundown of how to set up your WIPGO board and how to play WIPGO. If you are looking for any year-specific information, so perhaps any year-to-year changes, then you have a few resources to check first. You would head on over to the Facebook group, which is linked in the description box below. You could head over to the WIPGO Instagram account, and I will put it on the screen here, the handle. It is at WIPGO_official, and that is the official WIPGO account. You can head over to the community tab on my channel here. So if you are on a desktop or a laptop, or I think that some phone YouTube apps do allow you access to the community tab, then you can head over to the community tab and that will share with you any year specific information. So those three resources, I have a post on those three resources around the end of December each and every year that discusses any changes that are happening. But you won't find any year specific information in this video because, like I said, I hope that this is a video that will stand the test of time and be used for years to come. So as I said, this is going to be a how-to. If you are new to WIPGO, settle in. I hope that this video explains everything. If you are a veteran of WIPGO, settle in as well if you're looking for a refresher course or perhaps some new ideas. A lot of this video is going to sound an awful lot like the WIPGO 2022 video. Because I think that video did a pretty good job of explaining how to play WIPGO. There have been significant enough changes, and that was a year-specific video, so I can't exactly rebrand that video, so to speak, as the WIPGO how-to. So, but the overarching idea and the concept is the same as you might find in the WIPGO 2022 video. Over the course of this video, if you have any questions, either questions that pop up, or if you get to the end of the video and you still have questions, leave them in the comment section below and I will get to you as soon as I can. If I am not fast enough, because I never am, feel free to head on over to the Facebook group. There are over 6,000 members of the Facebook group at the time of this filming. There are lots of people who either have the same question as you, or there is somebody who has the answer and can get it to you just about immediately. So I would definitely recommend the Facebook group. I'm going to say that a few times throughout this video because we can crowdsource some information, and there are people who have taken WIPGO and ran with it and have great ideas and great suggestions and great answers, maybe even more so than me. So that is that. One thing I did want to say here at the forefront is I am going to be using cross-stitch related language and terminologies here because that's what WIPGO was created for. However, you are more than welcome to use WIPGO for literally anything in your life that you might want to use it for. I have the philosophy, your board, your rules. It is a game. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be a visual aid for doing the things that we enjoy to do. So you're more than welcome to apply this to quilting, scrapbooking, knitting, crochet, any other paper craft, reading, movies, TV shows, exercises, cleaning tasks, home improvement. I mean, the list goes on and on. There are so many uses for the idea of WIPGO, but just so you were aware, I'm going to be using cross-stitch terminology with this video because that was what it was created for. So I think that covers all of the things before we get into everything. So let's jump right in and let's talk about how to play WIPGO. So the first thing you need is a board. You need a WIPGO board. It's essentially a blank bingo board. And the standard board looks like this. So it's just a 5x5 grid. Now, if you're looking for a pre-made template, you have some resources. The description box of this video has some linked that I have created. I have a couple of PDFs down there. You can also head on over to the Facebook group, and the file section contains both my templates as well as a few member submitted templates to use as you wish. You can also create your own. You could create one either digitally or by hand. It doesn't have to be even a bingo board. It could be just a list of 25. I just happen to like the visual, and I like the concept of playing bingo with cross stitch. So that's why it is organized like this. But if your brain works different and you need it in a list, go for it. It's going to be the same. It's just going to look different. That's all. So you need a board. It's not going to have 1 through 25 in it. Instead, you are going to populate this board with projects, or you're going to populate this board with categories or concepts. So I'll go over that in just a second. But the premise for WIPGO is that you fill this board with projects. Now, the question that I get each and every year is, Jess, I do not have 25 projects or 24. I don't have that many projects. I'm kind of more of a one at a time stitcher, or I don't like more than 10 projects, etc. You can play WIPGO. You can absolutely make WIPGO fit even if you have just one work in progress at a time. You could, so there are 2 layers to a WIPGO board. There's the project and there's the goal. So if you're a one WIP at a time kind of person, you could fill this board with that one project, and maybe for variance and for something interesting, you change what the goal is. So if you would set, we'll talk about goals a little bit further in a moment here, but you might do 1,000 stitches, 500 stitches, 250 stitches, what have you. So you might vary the goal for each of these blocks when you don't necessarily have as much variation in projects. But like I said, we're going to talk about goals here in a minute. So that's the basic, is to fill this with projects. Now, a couple years ago, somebody created the idea of putting in categories or concepts instead of specific projects. So if you're somebody who doesn't like when somebody tries to tell you what to do, which is kind of what this is, then perhaps you put in bring a project to 50%, or work on a fancy lady, or work on something with specialty stitches, or work on a seasonal, something like that. You could do something more broad stroke, and then when the call happens, you can apply a project, whichever project you decide, to that. You could say work on an old WIP, and you work on something that's one of your oldest, kind of an idea. So it's a little bit more open. I have loved this concept. I haven't done it myself. Maybe in years to come, I will give that a try. So the sort of opposite side of the spectrum is just, I have 100 WIPs. So you have options too. You could plug in multiple projects into each of these squares. You could also create multiple WIPGO boards. For 2023, I have created 3 WIPGO boards, so I'm right there with you. You could do the more categorical, where you get to choose which project goes with each category. So you can do that. It just kind of depends on your stitching style and what you kind of hope to accomplish in the coming year. Okay, so you have your board and you have your projects on it, or your categories, or what have you. Now you need a goal. Now, I'm going to say this a lot of times, but a goal is like super personal. That's a really personal thing. My stitching time and your stitching time are not the same. My goals and your goals are not the same. It's deeply personal. So I'm going to talk over schools of thought and then maybe give you some ideas for what you might use for your goals. So there are two schools of thought. You can apply monthly goals. So when the project is called, you pick a monthly goal. Or you can apply yearly goals. I have done both. So my first year playing WIPGO, which was actually kind of a private thing, I wasn't releasing it to the public, if you will. I applied yearly goals, and so there were several projects that I wanted to finish by the end of the year. I wasn't necessarily accomplishing that in the month that it was called, but it was nonetheless my goal for that project. In the most recent couple of years, at the time of this filming, I have done month goals. So my hope is to achieve that goal within the month that it's called, be it number of stitches or days on the project, etc. For 2023, I have a mixture. I have some with month goals and some with year-end goals. It just kind of depends on my mood, and what I hope to accomplish with each and every one of my projects. So those are the two big ideas for what you might do. Do you want something that's more like something to work on over the course of 12 months, or do you want it to be a goal that you knock it out this month and then you're able to move on? Sort of a tick, that's done kind of a thing. So that's something to consider. Okay, so let me talk over some ideas for what could be your goals. I have seen stitch count goals and stitch time goals. So if you're somebody who likes to count your stitches, then perhaps you set a stitch count goal. If you are somebody who likes to count time, then perhaps you set a time goal. Again, I have done both. I have done both X number of stitches, and I have also done X number of days. For me personally, I'm gonna always link back to myself because it's the easiest reference, right? For me personally, if I put in a stitch today, it counts as a day. That counts as a day for me. Maybe it's not a great day for stitching, but it counts for me. So if I was to set my goal at 5 days, that's going to count for one of those days. But again, that's a personal thing. Let's see, what else can you do? You can get to a certain percentage or a certain goal line, a certain motif finished. We can expand this beyond the actual stitching, and it can go to FFO. I have done pages. I have done sections, as I said. I have seen where people literally just say, I want to work on it at some point this month. I want to spend a day on it, or I want to spend a week on it, or I just want to say that I worked on it. I have seen where some people take WIPGO and let that fully detail what they're going to be stitching on. So the 2 calls each month indicate exactly what they're going to work on that month, and that's it. So for instance, 2 and 19, you would spend half the month on 2 and half the month on 19, or however you decide to break it up. One of the things that I'm going to reference here is the Facebook group. Particularly at the end of December and early January of each year, WIPGO is a great time to be in the Facebook group. And the reason I say that is that everybody is showcasing what they accomplished in the previous year of WIPGO and what they hope to accomplish in the coming year of WIPGO. There's a lot of discussion about what worked for me and what didn't, and how am I going to adjust, and what tweaks I might make in WIPGO years to come. It is a great resource for seeing what other people are using for their goals. You can also check the hashtags on social media. So WIPGO, hashtag WIPGO, and whatever the year is. You can use that to take a look and see what people's goals are and how they organize things. It's deeply personal, and sometimes it takes a year or two of WIPGO to really figure out what fits your lifestyle, what fits your hopes and dreams for your stitching. So yeah, definitely lean on others for some goal ideas if you haven't done any goal setting previously. So there's that. Okay, so that is the 2 layers of WIPGO. So there's a third optional layer to WIPGO, and that is rewarding yourself for accomplishing your goals. My hope in creating WIPGO is that it was a goal that you need to reach for, but it's not so insurmountable that you can't possibly achieve the goals. The idea is that you can feel sense of accomplishment without feeling sense of disappointment. And I think that extrinsic motivation is an important part of that. And so I encourage you, especially if this is your first year of WIPGO, to set some kind of a reward for yourself, either for completing each square or for completing a bingo line, etc. There are a million different ideas for what you might use for your reward. I have done new full coverage start. I have done WIPGO, or I have done project bag purchase. I have done gift card to European cross stitch. So when I got a bingo, I would buy myself a European cross stitch gift card, and then that would go into a pile to use for my next chatelaine kit. I have seen where others put money into an envelope and then they spend it at their LNS at the end of the year. I have seen people use their bingos for new starts in general. So you get a bingo, you get a new start. Purchases, I saw where somebody had their partner like wrap up some of their stash into like little envelopes, and then when they got a square accomplished, they got to open an envelope. And it was something that went into their stash, be it needle minders and scissor fobs and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of cool, which, you know, it's a way of like that gratification of opening a present, but without actually spending anything. So that's kind of a thing, a cool idea. What else have I seen for rewards? The limits don't exist on any of this, really. It is your board, your rules, and my hope was that WIPGO could be something that could fit literally any lifestyle. Literally anybody should theoretically be able to play WIPGO. So reward yourself how it might fit for you. You don't have to reward yourself either. For some folks, the intrinsic motivation, the idea of I got that goal accomplished, I got that project finished, or I got that project worked on that I haven't worked on in 35 years, that works for some people too. So just, you know, take that personally and have a conversation with yourself and see what you need to continue playing WIPGO. I will tell you that WIPGO everybody tends to be super enthusiastic about WIPGO in January, and a lot of folks tend to drop off the radar around July. June, July, things tend to shift in the mood on social media with regards to WIPGO. So I say I encourage motivation because it will keep you in it. It will keep you interested in playing WIPGO throughout the year. So anyway, so there's that. Okay, so we're going to talk about the calls and how all of this is going to work. Because you've got your board now, it has projects in it, it has goals in it, you have your rewards figured out. So now, how do we play WIPGO? I'm going to show you how the calls worked out in WIPGO 2022. And you will notice that May was a little bit different. And that is because space number 13 it's a special block there in the middle. For many of us, for a lot of us, 13 is a free space. It is a gimme. It is that the first thing on your to-do list is write your to-do list kind of a thing. There's multiple purposes for space 13. First of all, a bingo board is traditionally, an American bingo board is 5x5. 25 does not go into 12 months evenly. There's an extra, there's a remainder, if you will. So space 13 there in the middle is usually attached to free space just to give you that extra gimme. So in May, you will see that the first number called was 13. For those of us in which 13 is a free space, I needed to draw 2 more because we still needed 2 projects to focus on or work towards our goals or what have you. You are more than welcome to ignore free space and to instead throw a project in there with a goal and all that. You can. I have also seen where some people use that free space for a new start. So that's kind of cool. I might actually do that this year. I might put in a new start in Space 13. So anyway, so that is what Space 13 is for. It's so that we can fill the whole board and also give some instant gratification for those who may need it. I will tell you that I have leaned pretty heavily on Space 13 over the years. So there is that. One other thing that you will notice about how these were drawn is that no number is called twice. So that's important to remember. Nothing is going to get called again. So if number 2 is called in January, you don't reach your goal in January, just know it's not going to get called again. So you will have the rest of the year to make up that goal, to get that goal accomplished if you so choose, but it's never going to be called again, because the idea is that we cover this whole board in a year. Okay, so that is how 2022 shook out. So I'm going to put up a series of screenshots. This is one of my WIPGO boards for WIPGO 2023, but it will work for years to come. And I'm going to showcase how you might go about covering your board, covering the spaces. So at the end of December, everybody's board should look like this. It should be all white. It should be plain. And so we do the calls, and we are doing the calls on the 25th, starting with WIPGO 2023 and moving forward. The calls are taking place on the 25th of the month prior. This is to allow for anybody who needs some planning time, a few days to try to figure out when and where they're going to work on things. So we do the calls on the 25th. And I'm going to use the numbers called for 2022. I'm going to use those over again. And our calls for January are 2 and 19. Now, I tell you that I made these, we do these draws on the 25th. The idea is that you wait until the 1st to get started. But your board, your rules. You can start early if you like. It's just the idea is meant to stick within the boundaries, if you will, of the year itself. So you're supposed to wait until the 1st, but you do your boo-boo. Okay, so my projects 2 and 19, and we get to January 1st, and now my board looks like this. Light gray for me is called, but the goal is not accomplished yet. The goal is not finished. Then we have dark gray. Dark gray for me is the goal is accomplished, but it hasn't been called yet. So if you're looking at my January board here, you will see free space is in that dark gray, because technically that goal is done. It's just that it hasn't been called yet. And then black will be the 2 layers, called and the goal is accomplished. So let's say we get to the end of January and I worked on block number 2. I was in the mood for it and I accomplished my goal on block number 2. Very exciting. So that one changed to black. We get to the end of January and I am not feeling space 19. I just wasn't in the mood, or I didn't work on it as much as I told myself to. I didn't reach the goal. That one's going to stay light gray because it has been called, but the goal isn't finished. Also, in the month of January, in our example, let's say the spirit moved me and I wanted to work on Space 25. I was just feeling that project. I wanted to spend some more time on it. And so I worked on that project and I got my goal accomplished on that project. You kind of have 2, maybe even 3 options. The third one is, well, we'll get to it. So the first option is you mark that as dark gray, because for me, it's 2 layers, called and goal accomplished. And since 25 hasn't yet been called, who knows when it will be, that can't be blacked out yet for me. You can also, if you're somebody who's like, no, I reached my goal, I'm done, I don't need the 2 layers, so to speak. If it's done for me. So you could black it out right then, and then you're done, and you don't have to worry about that for the rest of the year. The third option, and this is totally up to you, but you could change Space 25. So you could either advance the goal. So perhaps your original goal was to put in 1,000 stitches. Then perhaps you say, well, maybe I want to reach 2,000 stitches. So you could advance your goal. You could also change out the project if you wanted to. I mean, that's also a deeply personal thing. How stringent you want to be with your board. Do you want to leave your board as is, or do you want to change things? One question that comes up every single year, and that is, Jess, what if I hate the project in Space 19? Either I am not in the mood, or I'm UFOing it, or etc. What do I do? You have choices. You can either leave it as is and you just never get to mark that block complete. You could try to reach that goal later on in the year. You could switch it out. You could switch it out for something else. Let's say you pull out Space 19 and you work on it for a day, and you determine that you want to UFO it. Technically, that project is gone. Technically, that project is done for your sake, so you can mark that block complete. That could be enough for you. You made the determination that that project wasn't going to work for you anymore, but it's done for your sake, so you could mark it done. That's a choice that you will need to make. I have swapped out projects that I wasn't feeling, and then I swapped them back in later on. I have reduced my goal. You can reduce your goals. Let's say you get to the end of January and you're like, there is no way I'm going to be able to accomplish those goals on this entire board. You can reduce your goals. It's your board, your rules. So you can make those changes as needed. I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend trying it out for the whole year just to assess where you land on the goals, because if you're constantly adjusting your goals, then goal setting in future years might be difficult. But your board, your rules. Okay, so let's go back to our example. Space 2, called in January, goal accomplished. That box is blacked out. Check, done. Space 19, project was called in January, but I never really felt like working on it in January, so I'll try to get to that later. So that one is left light gray. And Space 25 is dark gray because I was in the mood for that project and I reached the goal, but it hasn't yet been called. So let's advance the board a little bit. And for our example, let's go to the middle of February. Now our calls for February were, conveniently enough, 13, 25, and 6. So since free space, 13, done. 25, done. So the only space that I need to work on is space number 6, because I have reached the goal on 13 and 25. So that's how you might see this board evolve and change colors. Throughout the year, you're going to see a lot of boards that this checkerboard of color starts to pop up. So that's how you might see the boards, and hopefully that helps you understand what's going on with all of these colors. Not everybody uses the white to black color spectrum. Some people use different colors to denote different things. So use that as you will. Okay, so that is how to play WIPGO. Hopefully by the end of the year, you have a blackout, you have all of your rewards, you have all of your goals accomplished, and I hope that you had fun along the way. That's really the whole point of WIPGO. It's meant to be something fun. It's meant to, like I said, fit your lifestyle, no matter what your stitching time is, no matter what your free time is. The hope is that it works for you. I got to tell you that this time of year, this end of December, early January, is my favorite time in WIPGO. And I say that because there is so much potential. There is so much positive energy and hopefulness for what the year to come in WIPGO is going to be. It's a great time for WIPGO. And I just want to say a huge thank you here to all of you that play WIPGO, to you to those of you who take this idea of mine on and run with it, and to those of you who are on FlossTube and on social media talking about WIPGO, thank you very much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. As I said at the beginning, if you have any questions that are still lingering, pop them in the comments below. Head over to the Facebook group, and we will hopefully get your questions answered. And so with that, I'm going to head off and get to planning my year of WIPGO, get to organizing everything. I will see you all around social media on the Facebook group and on the Instagram account. Thanks for watching. As always, be kind. Happy stitching. See you later.